How would you decide? Well, I don't know.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to Kent with Bent, number 101.
Yeah.
Before we even get going, we got a few things. One, DM Wing sent some "How's it going?" super stickers. One way back when this was originally scheduled at noon because I'm apparently bad at scheduling streams. Sorry about that, everybody. And also one just recently. So thank you very much, DM Wing. Also, Command Cyborg has rejoined the channel, I believe, at the level of Amnio. So send in, if you're a channel member, send in some of those tetrapod emojis to welcome Command Cyborg. Always appreciated. So Bent, yeah, I noticed that you were having a particular fashion choice this week.
Yes. I have a pink tutu that I have to wear.
Okay.
And I think there's still one more I have to wear on the next episode too.
How does
and
that
I love
happen?
wearing it. Well, it's a donation incentive.
Okay.
So I think it's currently at 190.
190.
You get 190 US equivalent on a stream.
Okay.
We'll wear the pink tutu next time.
All right. And also, we're at the point where it's a 150 for a feather video, in case people want to do that. But those are things that, those are very optional. We are here, of course, for Kent with Bent, which is our React to Kent while drinking show. What are you drinking today there, Bent?
Oh, I have this tea with some water flavoring in it. It tastes like raspberry lemonade. It's decaf iced tea. And then I have more tea in this Don't Be Dumbass mug.
Very nice. Where can people find the Don't Be Dumbass mug?
You can find that on Chesh's store. Link in her description on her channel.
By the way, Chesh's channel is linked on my channel page as one of my channels that I link to. There you go. Also, I have a merch store, which I actually recently took a payment from that. Second time ever, I think. So that was nice. So if you want Dapper Dino merch, like maybe that dinosaur blanket that has a cute little dog on it. The dog doesn't come with the blanket. Only the blanket. Purchase.
Just the blanket, yeah.
You don't get the dog.
The dog is not a free bonus either. You will not be getting the dog at all.
No dog. But if you want the blanket, that's there. But anyway, I am drinking a rum and Coke. This is a caffeine-free Coke because I want to be able to go to sleep later. Because I am old. I'm like 150 million years old, so I need caffeine-free Coke.
Right.
I'm not a hatchling anymore. So, right? So, let's see. We basically drink and listen to Kent Hovind. So, we're going to go over the drinking rules real quick before we really get into this. Now, before we do that, I want to say, as a preliminary, warning, hey, this is a game that you play at your own risk, and I want you to be safe. If you don't want to play with alcohol, that's fine. Bent isn't. I am. You can play along with just whatever beverage you want. You can play. I've had people play along with vaping. You can play along with non-alcoholic or alcoholic beverages. Whatever you want. Or you can just not play along. Right? That's perfectly fine too. I can't actually see what you're doing for the most part. I can see what you're doing over there, David. But you're one of the exceptions. So, I got my eye on you, but for the most part, I can't see what most people are doing. Now, we have drinking rules. So we'll start out with one. We take a drink whenever Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid we just kind of have to, and that's sort of like the brain coolant. We'll also take a drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something factually correct that isn't just him quoting someone else. So that's an important aspect. If he's just quoting what someone else said, that doesn't count. He has to actually get the right information out of his own brain, which is our least frequent drink trigger. We also take a drink whenever Kent Hovind tells a joke that doesn't land, or he tells a story that didn't really happen. For instance, if he confuses an argument he had with his shampoo bottle with an argument he had with an evolutionist professor on an airplane on his way to California, take a drink for that. Also take a drink anytime Kent Hovind decides to mention the National Socialist German Workers' Party or various prominent members thereof or their activities, especially in times like the 1930s and 40s and whatnot. That's important. But I mean, even back into the 20s. We will also. There are a few ways that we can. Oh, look at that. Bent, your camera went away.
That's true. My camera went away momentarily.
Okay. So we just got a Godzilla in, so we're going to drink for Godzilla because that's one of them. If you hear Godzilla or Mothra, we're taking a drink for it. But also, a few people have opted to demonstrate some of the other drink triggers. So William Robinson, who's been a member for 1 month and is at the amniote level, says AIG is a pocketbook of mad pals with a drink emoji. That's drinkworthy. And Olivia Williams, who's been a member for 9 months at the tetrapod level, says, well, I'm able to do this, and then sends a Mothra emoji, which is also a drink trigger. So, to describe those more fully, drink triggers also include anytime you hear Godzilla or Mothra, or anytime someone sends as a super chat or milestone chat any of the kaiju emojis that we have with the channel. Steve Marino, who's been a member for 2 months, is at the amniote level, says, stop peeping on Dave, but starts it with a Mothra, so take a drink. Also, if anyone super chats anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, we'll take a drink, but you have to be careful. You can't just say out AIG are a bag of dicks. It'll stop you. So you gotta be a little clever. Some people put it into other languages. People use various euphemisms, things like that. And then finally, we will take a drink for each gifted membership. So that means if you gift 5, we will drink 5 times. If you give 10, we'll drink 10 times. If you want to enable those so that you can get one, when someone gifts memberships, you'll be able to click on the little symbol at the top of the chat, and there should be an option for enable gift memberships. Now that won't work if for some reason your YouTube account counts as a brand account. Some of yours might, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how or why that is a thing, but YouTube has decided that it is a thing, and it is annoying. So, there you go. Bent, have I missed? Oh, predictions. If one of us predicts something that Kent is about to say when it's not clear what his next argument is going to be, take a drink for that. Have I missed any of our drink triggers? I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. No, that's all of the triggers.
Awesome.
No.
Jessica, who's been a member at the amniote level for 3 months, says AIG are a bag of tuxedo torpedoes. I like it. And also has sent a Godzilla emoji. So there you go. We are 5 drinks in. We haven't even gotten back to Kent. Now, Kent has been telling us about how to prevent and or cure cancer by poisoning yourself. And by the way, neither Bent nor I are medical doctors, and so we're not giving medical advice. However, I will say that your doctor will probably tell you not to poison yourself. I feel like I can be pretty confident about that.
Hashtag not medical advice, but
Yes.
I think I agree.
DM Wing said, I don't have membership milestone chat ready, so Godzilla. All right, well, we'll take a drink for Godzilla. Now, everybody, I know it didn't show up. The super chat emojis are a little bit iffy, and they have really bad accessibility, especially for people who are visually impaired. So we're a little, like, loose with that. Arachamian for $20 says, what about off-brand emojis? No. Off-brand emojis do not count. But I do appreciate the effort. All right. Here we go. Here's Kent, who's just most recently telling us about bread companies putting preservatives in bread so that it has a longer shelf life, which apparently is some vast and evil conspiracy to, I don't know.
Not food that doesn't go bad before you can get to it.
Right.
Anything but that.
The vast conspiracy to lessen food waste, I guess. All right, here we go.
Is 3 things at least: vitamin E, lecithin, and the omega-3 fatty acids. Now, we have got an entire videotape called The Bible and Health in our green series of tapes, the topical tapes.
Hey, fun fact, Kent Hovind, also not a doctor. Do not take medical advice from this man. Do not do it. And DM Wing says you can't super chat channel emojis on mobile. I know. That's why we're being very understanding when it comes to the emojis. With because I know that it's hard on mobile. It's basically impossible if you're visually impaired. So like
Yeah.
might want to get that one if you want a whole lot more on the Bible and health, because there's just so much to talk about in this area. We'll just suffice it to say that when they took these things out of the bread, two things happened. The bread started lasting much longer.
Oh, okay, so he's just lying about how preservatives work. He's
I
saying
think he understands
he's saying
longer versus shorter when it comes to time.
That the way preservatives work is by leaching out nutrients, which is not true. What's actually happening is that two things are happening. One is you're adding preservatives, but two, you're also having things like white bread. Now, how do you get your flour to be so white? Well, you do a lot of processing that itself takes out the nutrients. But here's the thing, right? If you bake a preservative-free loaf of bread with the same flour that's used to make Wonder Bread, it's not going to have magically more nutrients because you didn't use preservatives. It's going to be just as nutritious as Wonder Bread, which is to say, not very. And it's also not going to last long. That's all that's happening. So we're going to take a drink for Kent conflating processing flour with adding preservatives as if they were the same thing. And look, I mean, it's not wrong that Wonder Bread is basically just empty carbs, right? You might as well just eat a bowl of sugar. But like,
Yum.
That doesn't mean that the preservatives are the bad thing for you.
And therefore, profits go up. And people started having diseases like heart attacks and strokes and circulation problems.
Oh my goodness, no, Kent. That's what happens when medical treatments improve. So other causes of death from when you were younger don't normally cause death. If you live long enough, you're going to die of something. Heart disease and cancer are diseases of the old. The reason they're more prominent is because more people get to be old. Now, of course, there are exceptions. Young people get those things too. But as you continue in life, your chance of developing either of these things goes up every year. And so eventually, you're going to get at least one of them.
Yeah, if you live long enough, you will get cancer. It's just a matter of time.
I'm taking a drink for Kent saying that Kent confusing basically people living longer with an increase in the actual rate of developing heart disease or cancer. Basically, the age-adjusted rate of cancer is invariant. It just doesn't really change throughout history. There are small exceptions, like there are cancer clusters from, large carcinogen exposures and things like that. But for the most part, yeah. After you adjust for age, the cancer rate largely just doesn't change through history. What does change, though, is how long the average person lives. And if the average person starts living longer, you're going to get a higher incidence of cancer per person in the, or per 100,000, I suppose, population.
There's a simple formula I tell the kids to remember. The whiter the bread, the quicker you're dead.
I mean...
Not a formula. That's not what a formula is.
Yeah, that's not a formula. It's also oversimplified, but... On the other hand, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to argue that white bread isn't less nutritious than like whole grain wheat bread. It isn't. If you're going to eat bread, you should eat more nutritious bread than the Wonder Bread that Kent here is satirizing.
Wonder Bread. Why is his tongue so long, and should I even want to know? Do I even want to know?
You'll have to ask one of his wives.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. They took out about 17, I think, or 19 nutrients and vitamins out of the wheat and flour and invented white bread.
Yes, Inkboy. Like after Chernobyl, there was a cluster of cancer in that area of the Ukraine. That is correct.
Then they added back a few synthetic vitamins.
There's no such thing as a synthetic vitamin. Oh my goodness. This chemophobia thing, we're gonna talk about this a little. Okay, Bent, pick your favorite vitamin. What's your favorite vitamin?
Probably vitamin C.
Vitamin C. Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Did you know that vitamin C is actually the name of a chemical substance? Has a
Oh no, it's a chemical?
It is a chemical. It actually has a particular chemical formula.
What?
Now, here's the cool thing. There is literally no difference between vitamin C molecules that come out of an orange and vitamin C molecules that come out of a test tube. Because it's literally the same molecule.
Same molecule.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a synthetic vitamin. It's either the same chemical or it's not. If it's not, then it's not the vitamin in question. If it is, then it is. There's no level of purity that comes from your vitamins having grown on a vine somewhere. It's the same molecule.
Super vitamins.
No, that's not a thing. There's no spiritual quality of your vitamins that is imposed by the sun and the rainfall out in the forest somewhere that you're just not going to get from a cold, sterile laboratory. It sounds poetic and all, but like, yeah, and like as Hawkskull points out, yeah, vitamin C is ascorbic acid. No matter where it comes from, if it's ascorbic acid, it's vitamin C. Period. I already took a drink for chemophobia, so I guess I'm not going to drink for it again, but I kind of want to. Because this naturalism bias and chemophobia is some of the dumbest stuff that happens.
Be dumbass.
And called it enriched flour, enriched bread, and it's killing people.
I think it's a stretch to say it's killing people. It's not.
You know
the
what
most
could kill
nutritious
people
food.
though is apricot seeds. If you just chew on those, that could kill people.
Mm-hmm. That could. Inkboy asks if ascorbic acid has chirality, and I don't actually know. Chemistry people, does ascorbic acid have chirality? Also, there's a whole lot of people who have not hit like. I'm seeing like 60 people who haven't, or sorry, 50 people who haven't hit like. Hit like, guys, it helps. Anyway.
It's not because the bread is harmful to you, though it probably is a little bit.
It's really not.
It's because you think you're full, therefore you're satisfied, therefore you're nourished. Well,
Actually, I'm going to agree with Kent on this one. I'm going to take a drink for Kent basically getting it right.
I thought people didn't feel full after eating bread, which is why they eat too much bread.
Well, so if you eat a lot of bread all at once, even if it's very low in like nutritional value, you'll feel full, but then your body will digest it very quickly. You'll feel hungry again. It's also why a lot of people who eat like carb-heavy Chinese food then feel hungry very shortly after. Oh, I'm full of all this like lo mein and white rice or something. Like, well, okay, but that's basically just a pile of sugar. You're gonna burn through that in no time, and you're gonna be hungry again. And so it is the case that both feel full and then get hungry again. You have in fact had a bunch of calories, and you haven't had a whole lot of vitamins when you eat a diet very high in like low vitamin carbs. It's not a great idea. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving you medical advice, but like there is some truth to the idea that low quality carbs are contributing to things like obesity and malnutrition. That
you could fill your stomach full of sand and feel full, but you're not nourished. Okay, so
that's probably true. I've never eaten enough sand. Get Anakin Skywalker on the phone. See what he thinks about this. Probably hates that idea.
Being full and being nourished are two different things, and an awful lot of people go through life filling their stomach, but they never nourish their system.
I mean, should we talk about hair starvation? Let's talk about hair starvation. But first,
I was just going to say, what point is he trying to get to?
I don't know, but we're going to read this My Unfinished Journey super chat for $2. My Unfinished Journey says, AIG are a carafe of crunchy crinkle sticks, and I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with that one, so we'll take a drink. So, Bent, have you ever heard of hair starvation? Sometimes called rabbit starvation?
What's that?
So, especially in times of, significant famine or, like sieges or things like that, throughout history, people have often turned to rabbits as a source of protein because they're numerous, they're easy to breed, or easy to catch if you don't have a breeding stock, right? They're also easy to feed, right? Like, they can eat, like, vegetable scraps, or leaves in many cases. Like, it's not very hard to keep rabbits alive and fatten them up. But there's a problem, which is that rabbits are actually lacking in certain essential nutrients, and I don't remember which ones, but like this is a real thing. People who eat or who make rabbit too much of a part of their diet actually can develop real nutritional deficiencies, and there's a malnourishment as a result of having too much of your diet be made of rabbit meat or hare meat. It's sometimes called hair starvation. It's an actual thing that has occurred to real people. And it's not Hair, it's Hare, hair. Like not a rabbit thing.
No, I did not know about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a real thing, and it can pose a danger. It also happens with people who hunt for a lot of their meat and who have gone through sort of a dry spell when it comes to bigger, more nutritious things like deer. So, if you are a hunter and trapper, getting most of your protein from rabbits or hares or things like that, maybe consider some dietary supplements or, getting some venison in you. All right. Here we go.
And you have to really watch that you pay attention to that. It boils down to the two basic philosophies of health and medicine. One philosophy is based upon evolution thinking.
That's going to be the evidence-based version. That's the one where we have things that have been shown to be effective, and those things are called medicine. And then we have things that have not been shown to work, and those things are called not medicine. And that's what Kent is going to be advocating.
We call that pseudoscience, and that's what I predict we're about to hear. Big prediction.
Okay? That says your body is nothing but a random collection of chemicals that formed by chance over billions of years, and so...
Take a drink, that's stupid. However, at a fundamental level, yes, your body is literally a collection of chemicals.
Yeah, but it's not random.
That's true, it's not random.
Like, I need certain chemicals to exist, and my body is good at absorbing those and getting rid of the chemicals I don't need.
Exactly.
So, right there, it's already stupid, but, yeah.
You treat diseases by adding more chemicals. You add more drugs. It is called drug therapy.
I mean, that's not the only thing that happens in medicine. There's also things like physical therapy. There's things like, therapy for your mental health in the form of, talking to a therapist. There are...
Yeah, it's so weird to say there's two basic philosophies of medicine, and one of them is drug therapy.
Right. Now,
wouldn't it be like disease diagnosis and then disease treatment? Would those be the two philosophies of medicine?
No, that's nonsense.
No,
and of course,
ridiculous.
Regular old normal medicine also says things like, hey, maybe you should eat nutritious food and not just, stuff your face with white bread all day.
You know what's weird is when I had high cholesterol, and this is a true story, my doctor sent me to see a nutritionist who worked in the medical staff, and they gave me some dietary changes to implement, and I did, and my cholesterol got better. No drugs required.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And
that was real medicine. That was from the VA, so if they can do that kind of medicine, anyone can. Any doctor can, because they're terrible.
You still got the flax seeds to prove it.
Yeah, I do. Flax seeds are great, and they're very healthy for me.
All right, here we go.
If you have a headache, you say, oh, doc, I got a headache. He says, here, take an aspirin.
Look, the idea that your doctor isn't going to investigate the cause of headaches is silly and nonsense. Now, granted, everyone gets a headache every once in a while, and if your complaint is like, oh, doc, every, once a month or so I get a minor headache, yeah, he's probably going to say, all right, well, just take an aspirin. But if you go to the doctor with, persistent headaches or things like that, there will be much more investigation, because that can be a sign of something. Or if you have, chronic serious headaches, like cluster headaches or migraines, there will be more significant interventions that can be done than just take an aspirin. But there are cases where the best you can do is alleviate symptoms because the underlying cause isn't something you can easily get at. Like, the underlying cause of headaches, like migraines, is, neurological. And, what are you going to do? You're going to open up someone's head to try to fix their migraines? That's going to be a worse idea than just giving them the drugs that they need to get past the migraine.
Right.
Now, does that mean that there isn't some hypothetical future treatment that would actually get to the root of what's causing migraines? Of course it doesn't mean no such thing. But, sometimes you just need to get on with life tolerably. For instance, there's some chronic pain things where any kind of at-the-root treatment is probably going to be so dangerous that it's not worth it. And look, sure, over the course of 100 years, maybe it would become completely unbearable. Chances are, though, you're not going to last that 100 years. So if you can make the next 60 years bearable, maybe that's going to be good enough. Maybe that's what actually needs to be done. Not an ideal thing, but hey, guess what? We don't live in an ideal world. All right.
Well, now hold it. What caused your headache?
Don't know, Kent.
I bet you didn't have enough water and you were dehydrated, Kent. That's probably what caused your headache.
Look, when I have a headache, that is my first go-to.
Hashtag not medical advice.
My first go-to when I have a headache is just drink a nice tall glass of water and see how that feels. That's always my first thing. Because you know what? Sometimes I'm low on water.
The lack of an aspirin that caused the headache?
No, Kent, that's dumb. The aspirin is treating the symptoms of a headache, which sometimes don't have particular definable causes that can be easily identified and fixed. Sometimes you just get a headache.
I don't think so. You see, what you're doing, you're treating a symptom. And medical doctors go...
You got it right. You are treating a symptom when you take an aspirin for a headache. Good job, Kent. Not everything is going to be an at-the-root treatment that's going to treat some base cause. Because you know what? Sometimes you have aches and pains. It's part of life.
to school and they study how the body does certain things, like how is the pain reflex sent, to the head? What's causing the headache? How do the nerves fire across the synapse, and how can we block that? Well, I think you're barking up the wrong tree here. Instead of figuring out how to give the opposite of the symptom, why not figure out what's causing it?
That's literally a huge section of medical research.
Yeah, that's called diagnosis, and it's fairly common amongst doctors and medical staff to try and diagnose conditions or diseases. It's everywhere in medicine. It's crazy how you might not know that doctors diagnose diseases, Kent. It's what they do.
Oh.
And then they treat them.
Drink from Mothra. Also, Arafamian says for $5, one school of medicine says to take an aspirin, the other says to stop watching Kent. Yeah, the root cause of your headache might just be watching Kent Hovind. That's
my headache's caused by.
Seriously. But yeah, the idea that modern medicine is not looking at the causes of diseases to try to figure out ways to cure those things is just absolutely ludicrous. I mean,
I wonder if Kent knows about the CRISPR gene.
Yeah, there's CRISPR. There's things like just the basics of like antibiotics is because you've identified a bacterial infection, and an antibiotic will treat the root cause of that infection, which is the bacteria. Like that's the entire point of antibiotic therapy, is specifically to get rid of the root cause of the problem. Same thing with chemotherapy or radiation therapy for cancer. You're specifically trying to target the root cause of the problem, which is the cancer cell. Now, I know Kent thinks that cancer is caused by a vitamin deficiency, but that's dumb, and we're not going to continue addressing it unless he brings it back up.
Yeah, that's not right.
What's causing the headache? Okay, it's not the lack of an aspirin that's causing it. If you're driving down the highway and
what's causing the headache?
Yeah, he doesn't know either. That's the thing.
No idea.
Light comes on the dash of your car. You have two choices. Number one, you can stop and find and fix the problem. Or number two, you can unplug the light.
Yeah, Kent, when I have a headache, it doesn't actually come up with a sign telling me why I have the headache. Also, sometimes when I'm like writing a script or listening to you, Kent, the cause can be pretty obvious, and sometimes I in fact do shut off the cause. It would be convenient, wouldn't it, if the human body were designed like a car, such that when things went wrong, a little light lit up telling you exactly what was wrong, or at least generally what was wrong. Unfortunately, the human body isn't designed, and so it doesn't have wonderful indicator lights that tell you what to do when something hurts. It just has vague indications that something is off. It takes years and years of training to be able to figure out what actually is the root cause, and even then, when you think you've got it figured out, sometimes it turns out you're wrong. Let's see, Inkboy for €5 says, my headache is from listening to Dumb Pluck talking about evolution without understanding what it is. It is Nixon moves in the bag, also known as... Sorry. It is Nixon moves in the bag, also known as AIG. We're taking a drink. Good old Tricky Dick.
Yep.
Hey, he opened up relations with the Chinese Communist Party.
Lesson 1 is don't use aspirin. Lesson 2 is change the oil in your car. I'm just writing down things for next week's quiz.
Okay.
If you say, well, the light bothers me, trying to drive and that red light shining right in my face, well, unplug it. Of course, that'd be stupid to do.
I mean, okay, look, if you're on your way to get your oil changed and the light is bugging you, it's actually not that stupid as long as you also then go ahead and fix the problem and plug the light back in. Like,
I don't know how you would unplug a light like that in a car.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
without taking apart more than I would want to take apart.
I'm thinking about like alarm lights. Like, sorry about this, but remember when we were in the military?
Yes, I remember.
Okay. And alarms would come in, right? And like your first action is always silence the alarm.
Right. That is the first reaction.
You don't then ignore the alarm, right? But it's like you
then
don't.
You go into the rest of the procedure.
Right. But the first thing is like you can't concentrate with this thing going on your ears, right? Like turn it off. Note that it's in. Proceed with whatever the emergency procedure is. Then you can clear the alarm. But like, I'm just saying, silencing the alarm isn't the stupidest thing that's an option if an alarm comes in. Even though, yeah, in particular on the car, I don't know how you would go ahead unplugging the light. I mean, maybe you could stick some duct tape over it instead. Maybe that would be a more practical option. Anyway, here.
Because the light is trying to tell you something. You're low in oil. Maybe your pump quit, or maybe you just don't have enough oil, or who knows what happened, but a lot of things can happen. The fact is, you better fix the problem instead of unplug the light. And if you go look in your medicine cabinet, you will find a whole bunch of stuff that unplugs lights. That's what drugs do. And
no, in many cases, they actually do treat the disease. So, for instance, let's say that you have just chronically low serotonin levels as a result of some, or which is in fact the same thing as a particular mental illness that you might have, right? Some mental illnesses are caused by a failure to regulate serotonin, which results in just low serotonin levels. So you have a drug that rebalances your brain chemistry to be back closer to where a normal, healthy brain should be. That's treating the actual problem and treating the symptom. Let's say that you have like high blood pressure. So you have some blood thinners help bring that down. That's treating the actual problem, not just the symptom. You're not going to feel a whole lot better just because you took some blood pressure medication, because on a day-to-day basis, people don't normally notice that they have bad blood pressure. It doesn't feel like anything in particular most of the time.
Can't really tell.
Yeah. So a lot of the drugs in your medicine cabinet are there to solve the actual core problem. But the problem is that in many cases, it's not something that can just be cured at a particular point in time, and now you just don't have to worry about it. It's a persistent problem with how your body is operating on its own that needs outside intervention, or it's not going to be fixed. But also, we could Vicks Vapo Rub in here. It's literally just menthol in some gel. Like Kent, I don't think this is the biggest drug problem in America is Vicks Vapo Rub.
Is this Kent's medicine cabinet? Because
I don't know. It's a good
being
question.
Pretty hypocritical if he's against using medicine, which it sounds like he's arguing against using medicine.
Basically, yeah.
Which is, you say, starts with a D but ends with a B. But I don't think you pronounce it. Yeah, but I don't think you pronounce the B.
Oh, it's like dumb.
Something like that.
Also, Jarrett Tilford for $1.99 US says, "Good sirs and madams, AIG is a satchel of Richards. We will take a drink." Oh, and hey, Bent, both Sal and Chesh, your previous co-hosts, are here. Because in case you guys missed it, Bent was on with Cindy and Sal on Chesh's channel just before coming here.
We talked about atheism and Christianity.
Then, yes. And then Vishanti cryptically says, "Honey, you got a big storm coming." Very cryptic.
Sometimes that is necessary. I'm not against taking drugs if you need them for certain things. Go.
You sure about that, Kent? Because you sure sound like you are. But also, Eric Hamian has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So let's get ready for 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I forgot to hit enter once. 4. And 5. All right, so let's see. Trail Mix, The Fallen, Tyler West, Wayne Gaff, there it is, and Luigi Potter were all gifted memberships. So everybody send some tetrapod emojis. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. Back to Kent. Oh man, maybe I made this drink a little stiffer than I was expecting. That just hit me.
Go to the doctor. If I get my arm cut off, it's not the time to take a vitamin.
You know
no
what,
doctor
Kent,
would
fair.
think that. Why?
But he thinks you might think that he wants you to do.
It's a time to go to the hospital.
I don't think Kent thinks
And
so.
doctors certainly have their place, and there are some awful good godly men, but I am convinced they have kind of a wrong philosophy because they're trained with an evolution underlying thinking that says...
a good thing, too.
Yeah, seriously. Evolution has saved lives. There have been treatments that were suggested almost entirely on the basis that the pathogen infecting someone was related to other pathogens with known treatments, and that maybe this treatment would work. An idea that simply would not work if evolution was not true.
When I was 4 and I got my very first asthma attack, I would have died from it if I didn't go see emergency services at a hospital. Thank God my parents didn't just try to pray it away and then let me die.
Or shove some apricot seeds down your throat?
I don't know if that was a thing yet, because that was a long time ago before Kent was on TV, but yeah, that would be a bad idea too.
Okay.
You treat diseases by adding more chemicals because we're just made from chemicals anyway.
We are made from chemicals, that's true.
Also, Kent, what do you think vitamins and minerals are? Because I got news for you, man. They're literally all chemicals. Everything you've ever eaten or drank has been a chemical.
Everything.
Because what's the sorry? What's the other option? What are you drinking? Light?
Plasma.
That's chemical. Well, I mean, it's chemicals in the sense of it's atomic nuclei and unassociated.
What about neutrinos? You could drink neutrinos.
Yeah, I guess you had a big
those
Steven
just go
cup of
right through you.
neutrinos. Yeah. Well, just like Taco Bell, right? Maybe that's the
In a different way. Maybe.
Taco Bell is actually made of neutrinos. No, that's the new theory now.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Taco Bell is made of neutrinos. It's not
It's
actually
just a
beef.
different flavor of neutrino.
We figured it out, guys.
If doctors were trained from a biblical perspective that says,
Oh.
God designed the body, and God gave us...
If God designed the body, he designed it as a chemical system. I'm sorry.
Where
fans.
where exactly? Where in the Bible does it tell you how to practice medicine? Because I've been reading all over, and I haven't seen that in there anymore.
Well, it does say that if you're cured of certain diseases, you kill a dove and sprinkle the blood around as a.
I think I'm supposed to go into the Jordan River 7 times over the next 7 days, and then I won't have asthma attacks anymore.
Better get a plane ticket. You're nowhere near the Jordan River.
Yeah, I think I'll just take my medication I take instead and not worry about it.
Also, the Jordan River is kind of gross. I don't know if you know.
That was the point of it, though, in the stories.
Foods and vitamins and minerals to meet our needs, then
sense.
they would have a nutrition philosophy.
Yeah, because no doctors care about your nutrition weight. But how do the doctors recommend that you treat high blood pressure?
Well, for me, it was cholesterol, and it was by changing my diet.
Yeah, okay. And did that work?
Yeah, it worked.
Weird.
It worked pretty quickly. No surprise. I mean, I was eating a lot of homemade banana bread at the time. A lot of it. I was making it 5 days a week.
It was crazy.
A whole loaf. It was so good.
It is delicious.
See, all sorts of diseases are actually nutritional deficiencies.
Yeah, you've already said that. It's still not true.
For instance, if you have warts, you're probably low in zinc.
Nope,
no, if you have warts,
by a virus.
it's because you have HPV.
Mm-hmm. Human papillomavirus is what causes warts. You know how we know? So when people get warts and then we test them, we find that they have HPV in them.
Yeah, it was evolutionary-based science that was able to figure that one out.
Yeah, weird.
And some random Bible verse that talks about warts.
I don't actually think I'm pretty sure the Bible nowhere says that warts are a vitamin deficiency. I don't think that's in the Bible.
That's nothing to do. Now I think some people have had some success with zinc treatments, maybe, but it also could have been it's the 4th day of this wart outbreak. I'm going to take a zinc pill, and it happens to be when it was going to go away. Whatever.
By the way,
I don't know.
Jack of Hearts for £5 says Batman holds in his hand a bag of Sidekick Robin. Speaking, witness, AIG. Nice. Take a drink. But that's the first Robin, Dick Grayson. There have been more. Remember.
If you get hangnails easily, you're probably low in vitamin C. Or if your
I don't know. Maybe.
Gums bleed, or if you get cramps in your muscles, you're probably low in vitamin C.
Hey, look, if your gums bleed, it's because you're not brushing or flossing enough. Go clean your damn teeth.
Also, eat an orange.
Yeah, I mean, oranges are good.
If you get arthritis or sinus trouble, you're probably low in a bunch of minerals most of them are found in alfalfa.
Or you're having inflammation problems, possibly even because of autoimmune diseases. And if you have an autoimmune disease, no amount of eating alfalfa is going to help it. Maybe you need to take some anti-inflammatory medication.
I'm going to try the alfalfa cure, because that one might be real.
You never know. Also, none of this is medical advice. Actually, go ask a doctor. But I'm going to go put it out on the line that the doctor is going to say that Kent is being dumb if you ask him about these. Well, apparently, also, zinc causes warts. If you have too much zinc, you get warts. No. Also,
wait, I thought I said it cured warts.
What it says here at the bottom, zinc causes warts.
I can read that, but I felt maybe I misunderstood what he was saying earlier.
Oh, it's just poorly written. A deficiency in vitamin C, vitamin B, zinc. Okay. All right.
Okay, deficiency in zinc causes warts. Okay.
Yeah, that's just a bad way to write it.
Start taking alfalfa, and a lot of those symptoms will disappear.
You know what? I will bet
Maybe.
that if you are someone who believes that alfalfa will cure your arthritis, and then you start eating alfalfa, you will see an improvement in your symptoms, because there's this thing called, what's it?
Placebo.
That's it. The placebo effect.
I almost said providence. No, I'm just kidding.
Providence. I mean, that is another one of the P words that we come up with.
Mhm.
But the placebo effect basically is just, if you think something will work, you will notice improvements, because there is something to the effect of mind over matter when it comes to your own symptoms. Your own attitude and expectations about treatment and its effects will affect the actual treatment. But that doesn't actually mean that what you're doing is being effective more than placebo, which is what people test for in medical studies, right? That's why the trial isn't just people given a drug and people not given a drug. One group is given whatever drug is under the trial, but the other one is given an essentially identical pill that contains no drug. It's usually just like a lactose pill, right? Like a basic sugar pill. And then you track them both, because if you had a third group that just didn't receive treatment, they would do worse than the lactose pill group, because they don't think they're being treated. So that's why you check for effect above placebo. Because if all medicine were just placebo, then, I mean, you could just hand out sugar pills well, no, because those are actually poison.
Oh, yeah, those would be bad. Yeah, don't do
but
that.
like, you could hand out like sucrose pill like candy and tell people that it's got some kind of fancy drug in there. And, I mean, people would be worse off than if you actually treated things, but they'd be better off than if you did nothing. And there's an actual like medical ethical thing about, like, given that we know that placebo is effective, is it ethically permissible to give people treatments that you know are just placebos for the placebo benefits without telling them that's what you're doing? And it's like, there's an actual debate about that, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is, but like, there are good arguments on both sides, in my opinion.
Now, if you have a sinus headache, you can take, Sinutab or something to kill the pain, but you didn't fix the problem. Didn't fix it at all. The problem is here in America.
Sometimes the problem is just that there's pain, and you need to get past it.
Why not just take alfalfa?
At least we want the cure right now. I got a headache, I want it gone in 15 minutes or less, as opposed to looking for the long-term solution. We want the quick fix, and eventually.
Turns out those things aren't mutually exclusive. If you have a chronic headache problem, you can look for the cause while also taking painkillers to get you through the day. Because that's what most people who are on pain medication for pain management are just trying to do, right? They're usually working on some kind of long-term solution, whether it be surgical or some kind of other like solution to the long-term problem. But in the short term, they need to get through the day, be able to function. And Kent being like, you don't need pain medication. You know what, man? I kind of hope at some point that Kent has to deal with chronic pain for which he needs some kind of pain medication.
I feel like he's probably there now.
He might be. And if he is, then maybe he's changed his tune, because it's not a fun time to need a pain management plan. That's one of the least pleasant things you can go through. And like, I tell you what, whether or not you know exactly what the cause is, you're going to want that pain management plan. Because how else are you going to function? To be so lucky as to have never needed pain management.
Yeah, it's not fun. I know from experience. It's very distracting. And who likes being irritable all the time? Nobody.
Apparently me, because I'm always watching Kent Hovind, which I should probably get a pain management plan for.
I think you have one, and it involves a drinking game.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'll take a drink for that. All right.
That's going to kill you. There's another philosophy called creation, which says God designed your body, and you meet the needs with nutrients. It's nutrition therapy.
Great. Nutrition, look, here's the thing. Like we said, there's nothing wrong with nutrition therapy for things for which it is effective. It's just not effective for most diseases. Sorry, but you're not going to cure your strep throat by eating enough leafy greens. You're not going to get over your cancer by having enough apricots. You're not going to get over your migraine by having enough bananas. It's not going to happen. That's not how it works. You know why we know? Because we've done tests, and those things were shown not to work. Sorry, they were not shown to work. More accurate.
Repeatedly.
Which means they're not medicine.
nutrition theory. You eat the herbs, the vitamins, and the minerals. Okay, let's hurry. There are two philosophies of government also based upon creation and evolution.
Oh my God.
See, if evolution is true, then there's no creator. So laws come from man's opinion.
Why? Why would there be no creator if evolution is true?
We're skipping ahead until there isn't.
All right. Well, I'll drink to.
We're also drinking for the National Socialist German Workers' Party.
Yeah, I'll drink to the trigger.
Thanks, Kent, for just
for
putting
that
up
trigger.
for putting up symbols of fascism just right up on screen. Much appreciated.
Well, if it's any consolation, he doesn't mind.
Yeah, well, that's true. He doesn't.
So, why would anyone?
That's what evolution does because it takes away the creator. Therefore, we decide what's best.
Why
if
would
evolution is true,
take away the creator? How come there couldn't be a creator and then still evolution?
Because Kent is dumb and he doesn't realize that that's a possibility.
Does he still think the Big Bang is evolution and evolution is the Big Bang?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he's got to sign this as evolution.
Hey,
worldview,
the Big Bang's still happening right now, right?
True,
So,
it never stopped.
I guess.
And rights are granted by the government. I ask people all the time, do you have the right to drive on the highway? Yeah. Our founding father said we have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. You can pursue things, you can go places, you can travel.
Uh-oh, we're getting into sovereign citizen nonsense.
Well, then why do you ask the state for permission to do that?
Because otherwise men with guns will stop you. That's literally what it is. Here's the thing, right? Natural rights theory is great, right? I'm a fan of some of the things that natural rights theory has given us because it's the basis on which you can say things like there are actual universal human rights that ought to be respected regardless of governments. And I think that's an important, moral aspect of the modern world is this idea that there are rights that are yours regardless of whether or not they're currently being honored or whether or not your current government feels like you should have them. And that there are mechanisms for at least attempting to bring governments who violate those to task. Now, they're not always successful, but at least there's the idea. Here's the thing, though. When it comes down to it, on the ground, where you are, whether or not you have the right to do something depends entirely on whether the largest group with the most guns in your area says that you do or not. In most places, that's the local government or the federal government or whatever level of government is in charge of that. Now, we're not here to have a discussion about the proper form of government or which rights governments should secure for their citizens and which ones are just privileges that should be revoked. Not here for that. Give me a second. I have to cough real quick.
Maybe you need to eat more nutrients.
I know, right? Sorry about that. But when it comes down to it, the rights you have are the ones that you're allowed to have by the government in most places. There are places where the government isn't really in operation, like parts of Somalia, in which case it's whichever rights the local warlords want you to have. Okay. But whether or not God gave you a list of rights, whether or not rights derive from the Imago Dei, or whether they derive from the moral capacity that humans share and other animals tend not to have, no matter what is true about all that, fundamentally, the things you actually are allowed to do in life are coming from the government in most. You just have to deal with that, whether you like it or not. They're the ones with the guns. They are the ones who will enforce their will upon you forcefully, as Kent well knows, having spent nearly a decade in federal prison, or having decided that maybe they won't do that. Because yes, they absolutely will.
He found out.
Yep. Nathan Winslow, who's been a member for 13 months, thank you very much, is at the amnio level, says, y'all are amazing, sends all 3 kaiju emojis. Let's take a drink for that. Thank you very much, Nathan.
Thank you.
You guys are amazing for supporting me.
That's true. This chat is the best chat of all chats of all time.
I agree. Even though, still, something like 30-something of them haven't hit like. All right.
Why would you need to get a state driver's license to do something that God already gave you the right to do?
Because they'll stop you if you don't.
Did God give me the right to drive on the highway? I don't think God cares about highways that much.
Even if he did, it doesn't matter. The people with the actual ability to force you to stop doing what you're doing will stop you if you don't. This isn't even like poli-sci time. I don't care what the proper system of government is, whatever. They are the ones who will use overwhelming force if necessary to get you to do what they think you're supposed to. So all of this, like, well, I mean, how did the government derive their authority to demand a license to travel on the road? I don't care. They've got enough guns to enforce it. You don't. So deal with it.
Yeah. That's right.
Interesting. I don't have one, and I don't have time for the hassle.
Of course, Kent doesn't have a
Why
driver's
would he
license.
not?
I'm taking a drink for Kent doesn't have a
Why
driver's
would
license.
he? Why would he? What is he pulling out of his
My
wallet?
goodness. It might be one of those sovereign citizen fake ID things.
Oh my gosh.
So I have an international driver's license.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. That's a confirmed prediction. Oh my god.
International.
I just ran out of my drink with that right there, so we're going to actually take our intermission a little bit early with Kenthoven's fake driver's license from a freaking sovereign citizen. Oh my god. I can't believe it.
I hope he shows it to the camera.
I mean, I can believe it because it's Kenthoven and he's like the
Right.
most ridiculous human. But like, it's just so perfect. He's got the sovereign citizen driver's license.
International.
Oh my god.
driver's
Amazing.
license.
It's so amazing. Hey, fun fact, most state-issued driver's licenses from the United States work as driver's licenses in like a huge swath of the world. Like, you can drive all over Mexico and Canada from the United States if you have an actual valid state driver's license. In fact, I think you can drive through most of Europe on that too, and vice versa, right? Like, if you come into the United States and you've got like an Alberta driver's license, the cops aren't going to say you're driving without a license if you're driving in the United States with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reciprocal agreements there. But yeah, guys, stand by. We're going to go to the intermission, and we are going to I'm going to refill my rum and coke, which is, I'm putting this in my Klingon beer glass that says
Nice.
Iteb Kad Kad Dup Et Chalbet Shuwit, which of course means a warrior does not allow a friend to face danger alone.
I knew one of those words.
Was it Jup?
Chuvwit.
Oh, Shuwit. Warrior, yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we will be right back. Stick with us because we are going to be back. All right, we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Bent.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad it is.
Thanks for
Guys,
having me.
With the now that the intermission is over, I'm going to do a quick plug, which is to say that I am starting officially the 2023 Patreon drive. I have two goals. Whichever one is met first is what we're going to call the drive is good. One is 100 active patrons. That's going to require, I believe, 28 more patrons. The other one is 1,000 a month, which I believe will be an increase of, let's see, 170 something per month. So, guys, being on the Patreon, one, it's more cost effective for me versus the channel memberships because YouTube siphons away 30%, Patreon only siphons away 10%. Now, I do recognize that you don't get the cool emojis for being on Patreon, so I get it. However, you do still get access to the Discord server. You get access to all the early access stuff. It's easier to get a hold of me. There are other tiers. For instance, if you want to go at the $50 or the $100 tier, it doesn't have that. It's a Patreon exclusive. So do go ahead and if you want, check out the Patreon, especially if you're not currently supporting financially in some other way, and you can afford it, because if you can't afford it, then please don't check out the Patreon. But if you can, want to be part of the team that's helping make this thing regular, then please go ahead and do that. The reason I have those set are those would go a long way towards making the channel more or less independent of direct reliance on YouTube ad revenue. Because right now the channel isn't in the black on either Patreon or YouTube alone most months. So if I could get it so that it is, then that would make it a much more secure thing, because YouTube money can just disappear. There's just no guarantee about it. It's great when it's there, but I mean, you know, last month I made a certain amount, but next month I could make $2. It's unlikely, but it could very well happen. So that's why I'm encouraging everyone to try to check out the Patreon if you can. If you can't, then don't. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about it for this particular stream until the end credits, where, you know, I mention it again. Also, we have two more super chats. Too Young to Feel As Old says, says AIG Bonech Tin Tlich Pash. Not sure if that's right. I don't know Klingon. AIG and then a shopping cart of eggplants. A Camtono of lightsabers. AIG is. Take a drink. Thank you very much. By the way, that Klingon is not actually accurate.
An effort was made.
An effort was made, and I appreciate it. We did drink for it. Also,
we did drink for
Dark
it.
Law Dragon for $10 says AIG is a bag of bananas. Drink for that too. And don't forget, if you're a channel member, you have access to the new AIG is a bag of dicks emoji. So feel free to send that along. All right, here we go.
And therefore, you can just, travel as much as you want, anywhere you want, drive anything you want.
Yeah, until the cops find out. Here's the thing, right? As I've said, look, I have a certain amount of sympathy for the motives behind sovereign citizens, right? Because I don't much like the United States federal government. I don't know too many people who do, no matter where they stand on the political spectrum, right? I know a lot of people on both the left and the right who really are not big fans of the United States federal, federal government for very good reasons. So, like, I get the idea that I don't want to be subject to the federal government because it's tempting. Also, Nathaniel Gray, who's been a member for 8 months and is at the Tetrapod level, sends 3 AIG is a bag of dick emojis and a Mothra, so we take a drink for that. But here's the thing. The cops, the judges, the prosecutors, even the public defenders, none of them care about your sovereign citizen nonsense. They just don't care, and they're the ones with the power. So even if all the sovereign citizen nonsense were true, it still wouldn't matter. And by the way, it's not true. Most of it's just complete nonsense. But even if it weren't, even if it were 100% true, that, like, the United States government is actually a corporation that's issued a bond in the name of, like, your name, but in all caps, and that's a corporate person and it's not really you, and you're under admiralty law if you step into the courtroom and there's fringe on the flag. Even if all that were true, none of it is, still wouldn't actually matter, because the people with the power to forcibly toss you in a cage, or if necessary, shoot you dead, don't care that you think those things are true. They think other things are true, and that's what matters. So here we go. More sovereign citizen nonsense. Were you expecting sovereign citizen nonsense today? Because I wasn't.
Not today, no.
Oh. By the way,
We're overdue, though.
This is CSE 102 Class 2 Topic Insects. I just want to remind people.
Insects.
And the policemen look at it and say, "Wow, what is this?" And they say, "Keep going."
No, they don't. They arrest you for driving without a license. That's what happens. And if you want evidence of that, I mean, look, sovereign citizen YouTube is a thing, right? People doing what I do, except with sovereign citizens. You can watch plenty of videos of people with fake sovereign citizen IDs being arrested for driving without a license.
They don't ever bother you. That gets into a whole other area. We've got a videotape called Straw Man you might want to get.
Straw Man.
Straw Man is literally just the thing I was talking about, where the United States government is actually some fake corporation that's issuing bonds under your name with the all caps thing. It's literally the straw man theory. It's also been adopted by like free men of the land in Commonwealth countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia. All just nonsense.
We don't advertise that one. It's kind of politically incorrect. But if you want to get the straw man video, call our office. They can get you information on that at 877-479-DINO. And they'll send you our straw man video. That's only if you want the red pill, for those who saw The Matrix.
Oh, God, he's going red pill on us. I'm taking a drink. That's just painful. Seem to increase my count. There it is. Yeah, that counts as a joke that didn't, I think.
If you want the blue pill, well, then do not watch the straw man. See, rights are granted by God.
I'll take the blue pill then.
Yeah, right.
But if evolution is true, there is no God, so rights are granted by government.
Either way, if the government doesn't grant you the right, you can't exercise it, Kent. Now, you can say whatever nonsense you want about like how that's going to work out for them. Maybe it's not even nonsense. You can say whatever you want about how that's going to work out for them in the afterlife, or whatever a good godly country would do. Doesn't matter. If the government doesn't secure you a particular right, you can't actually enact that right under most circumstances. Savage Cobra for $10 says, AIG is a collection of objects resembling the New Shepard rocket. And I'll bet they're in a bag, too. We'll take a drink.
And the government should be the all-powerful provider. And today we got a bunch of folks who have evolution philosophy. When they have a problem, they look to government for the solution.
Yeah, I'm sure there are no people who accept evolution who have, like, say, a libertarian or a right-wing bag. That just doesn't happen. Oh, wait. Yes, it does.
You know, the government ought to take care of those poor people over there. The government ought to take care of this, and the government ought to do this. And
well, you're not taking care of them, Kent. We know that.
No, he's hand-waving poor people away right now.
Well, now, wait a minute. We're supposed to be individually accountable. When they were having the big deal on...
Tell you what, Kent. You see how easy it is to be individually accountable when for generations you simply buying property on its own because of who you are and how you were born lowers the property value. Have a good luck generating intergenerational wealth when you're legally prohibited from doing so by the actual federal government. Then you tell me about how much personal responsibility you're going to have. In case anyone's curious about what I'm talking about, go look up redlining. It's all sorts of fun, except, no, it's horrifying and terrible. I need another drink. I just can't with this. Yeah, personal responsibility and personal pulling yourself up by the bootstrap is great, unless, of course, you're being prevented from doing so.
TV and on the news years ago about Hillary's health care plan. She wanted universal health coverage, and they showed these sick people, they don't have any insurance, we ought to take care of them. Hold on a minute, I understand. People need to be taken care of. However,
you're not.
Do you understand, Kent? I feel like you don't understand.
Here's the thing. I would feel better about this coming from Kent if I knew that he were actually taking money that he made and giving it to actually help people, right? Instead, it all just goes to him into whatever corporation soul that he is pretending isn't actually owned by him and instead is owned by God. So, yeah, that's the thing, right? If you were actually helping these people, then maybe I would feel like you had a point. But you aren't, Kent.
He helps no one. No. He helps no one but himself.
Even the times that he pretends to help people, like when he takes in ex-cons off the street and brings them to Dinosaur Adventureland and gives them like room and board, he's just doing it to get free labor. He doesn't care about them because he kicks them out when it's convenient for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Whose job is it? It's the church's job in case.
Yeah, as Vishanti says, next time Kent has a stroke on air, no one call the EMTs. I mean, yeah, especially if they're government EMTs.
Give him some alfalfa and see what happens.
Inkboy for €2 says, let's learn some Lithuanian. AIG Rapenumaishas, maybe? I don't know Lithuanian, I'm guessing. Take a drink,
That
though.
means.
I don't know what the U with the little descender is. Old Ringo has just joined the channel at the level of Tetrapod. Welcome to the channel membership, Old Ringo. Guys, send some Tetrapod emojis. By the way, guys, after this, we're going to be watching some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3 on the Discord channel.
Ooh.
So tune in for that on the members and patron Discord channel if you want to watch probably at least 3 episodes of Season 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We're just going through the series in order. After this, we'll be doing Alien Rangers. Then we'll be doing Zeo. Then we'll suffer through Turbo. Then we'll get to In Space.
No spoilers.
Turbo's bad. That's not a spoiler.
Cases like that, not the government's job. For one thing, 70 to 80% of all medical expenses in America are from problems that are self-induced.
I would love to see a citation for that.
Citation needed, right?
But yeah, I'm not seeing one, so we're just going to play a little citation needed.
I mean, they take drugs, they overeat, they don't take care of themselves, they don't watch their diet, they smoke cigarettes, and it causes them enormous health problems. And about 70 to 80% of all of our expenses in America are from self-induced problems.
Yeah, remember all those times in the Bible when Jesus healed someone and the first thing he said was like, okay, but what are you eating?
Stop smoking.
Yeah,
do the miracle, but you gotta quit smoking.
Yeah, you're eating too much. I'm not gonna heal you because you're fat. That's
fair,
all over the Gospels.
Tobacco is pretty unhealthy.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should overeat or smoke tobacco, but like, I'm just saying when it comes to like the actual healings in the Bible, I don't remember a whole lot of like quiz about lifestyle before.
Right.
Well, they were on the radio discussing this, Hillary's health care plan years ago. And I called in, I said, I forgot to change oil in my car, and the motor blew up. I'd like everybody to help me buy a new motor.
I mean, that's what GoFundMe is literally for. But that's a thing. It's already a thing.
And they said, well, if you forgot to change oil in your car, that's your problem.
This sounds like a conversation that didn't happen. I'm drinking for things that didn't happen.
Like you could get through in one of those phone calls anyway.
Well, I mean, there's that.
I said, yes, and don't you see it's exactly what you're doing here with health care? If you forget to take your vitamins and you eat junk food all your life and you smoke and you drink and you take drugs and you cuss and you run around with women.
Yeah, cussing is definitely a big health taking a drink for cussing
Wait
is
a minute.
big source of health
What
problems.
is stronger, alfalfa or cussing? I guess I could try both and see if my symptoms get better.
How many grams of alfalfa do I have to eat in order to offset the health costs of one F-bomb? I'm curious, Kent.
I'm glad the word alfalfa isn't a cuss word. That would make this way too complicated.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing, right? There is a certain moral dilemma in the economic sense with a universal healthcare scheme where it lessens the cost of unhealthy lifestyles upon people who choose to have them. However, then you have to balance that against things like, okay, what about people who aren't having a particularly unhealthy lifestyle, but also aren't like fabulously wealthy and might say have been laid off recently and then gotten into a horrible accident? So do we have a special only for recently laid off people who had physical injuries but who are otherwise healthy? And then how healthy a lifestyle, where's the cutoff? That's the problem, is you're in a continuum problem. And yeah, the moral dilemma is there, right? There's when you subsidize unhealthy things, you get more unhealthy things, which then does increase the total expenditure on healthcare. Like, it's a real problem. It's one of the reasons why some countries give incentives to healthy things, right? Or they very heavily tax unhealthy things. They have really high sin taxes. Whatever. This is not here for, like, what should your correct politics be? I'm saying that I recognize that there is that moral danger there. But like I said, you have to weigh it against the other things. And many countries have decided that the benefits outweigh those potential moral hazards. The term I'm supposed to be using, moral hazard, that's what it is. Sorry about that, everybody. But, okay. And you know what, Kent? Maybe you don't think the calculus does come out in favor of allowing the moral hazard for the increased care. But to just pretend that because the moral hazard exists, it's like a defeater for the idea of universal healthcare on its own is just stupid. That's not how anything works. Moral hazards exist for everything. All kinds of insurance, whether they're government-backed or not, introduce moral hazards. Do you think we should get rid of car insurance because people with car insurance are now subsidized to drive more dangerously, which they literally are? I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. Should we get rid of homeowners insurance because now it de-incentivizes people being careful with their homes? No, probably not. The fact that moral hazards exist with certain activities is not on its own reason not to engage in that activity, and that includes universal health care. For those of you who don't know, by the way, in economics, a moral hazard is what happens when, as a result of some contract that you've entered into, it subsidizes or makes more, it makes less costly some activity which would be damaging either to you or to the other party in the contract. And most contracts come with some kind of moral hazard. It's not like a new thing that, oh my goodness, how are we ever going to deal with this? We've been dealing with it literally since contracts first were invented, which is basically like ancient Sumeria. Somehow we've managed to struggle along.
How long ago was that?
5,500 years ago. Like longer than the flood.
Since before the flood.
Before the flood.
Got it.
And wild women, and you get...
Oh, yeah, Vagary says, I'd bet $1,000 Kent is anti-mandated car insurance. Yeah, he almost certainly is.
diseases. You want me to help pay for your health?
Okay, it's not like
pay
you're paying
taxes anyways,
not paying
Kent. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Why? Why does he say the things that he says?
Well, see, he pays sales tax sometimes.
It's true.
I think you created the problem, then you ought to fix it. Or you ought to pay for it, that's for sure. I should not have to pay for their stupidity. And if my neighbor blows up his car engine because he doesn't change oil, I'm not going to help him pay for it. I don't want to be forced to pay for it. I might do it out of Christian charity. But for
You might, but
has he ever?
No, as far as I can tell, Kent has never helped anyone besides himself that he wasn't legally obligated to help, like kids, like his own kids, like he didn't starve them.
Taxes are really forced contributions. Put a gun to your head, give me your money.
Oh my goodness, Kent has figured out that all government mandates and laws come at the barrel of a gun. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful insight that hasn't been like well known in political science since before political science was a thing. Everyone has always known that the way the government enforces its edicts, Kent, is by threat of violence ultimately. That's not news, nor is it on its own a good argument for or against a government policy. Like, you have to then go ahead and provide further reasons, because on its own, forcing people to do things isn't just necessarily bad, because people are forced all the time to do things like, I don't know, not murder each other. I don't consider that particularly bad. There's an actual discussion you have to have. You can't just point out that taxes are paid at the barrel of a gun and then therefore say, therefore it's bad. You got to actually do some more work to get there. And again, we're not here to do like what your political take should be, but like the fact that Kent is like just going with like first year political science, like freshman undergrad political science class, as if it's some kind of wonderful revelation, is just as annoying when he says really basic like physics or biology as if it's some kind of miracle.
It's because he didn't really go to college.
True, he did not. Well, okay, that's not fair. He got like at least 2 years in of a real college before he transferred to a fake college.
Maybe it was accredited, but does that mean it was any good?
Good point.
Because he clearly hasn't learned anything from it.
That's not voluntary. Totally.
Yes, that's true. Taxes aren't voluntary.
Opposite of the Christian philosophy. If evolution philosophy...
You know what? I'll tell you what, Kent. When a church starts actually involuntarily collecting tithes, then talk to me, and we'll both team up against that church.
Yeah.
Till then, I don't care. There's this whole Bible verse about render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's. And hey, you know what's on all that money that you pay for things on? Pictures of dead presidents.
My money has a bunch of George Washingtons.
There you go.
On the bills.
I guess they're not all dead presidents, because some of them are like Benjamin Franklin. Not a dead not president.
Follows through, you end up with a democracy where the majority of the people get together and decide what's right and wrong. Not at all what the Bible intended. Our founding fathers in this country said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
They did that while holding slaves, so okay.
It came from the Creator.
Yeah, they did say it. They were super bad at putting that into practice, and it, for centuries, didn't even try. Well, okay. For over a century, didn't even really try. And when they started trying, they were still doing really bad at it. In fact, it's hard to say if they were actually really trying.
God made us. Those folks, now they weren't all Christians, but they were strongly influenced by Christianity. And
I'll actually take a drink for that. That is true. Even the deists among them was pretty much Christians and deists were in fact influenced by Christian moral philosophy. That is true. They were also influenced by things like, ancient Greek and Roman philosophical traditions and other things. But Christianity was definitely in the mix there.
And they thought God created it. They said that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
It's unalienable, not unalienable. Unalienable means it can't be alienated, right? Which means it can't be removed from you.
Unalienable means it can't have not a lien be placed on it.
Yeah, except that's the thing.
Which is a double negative.
And having a lien are not the same thing. You can have rights that can have liens against them that are still unalienable.
No, I agree with you.
Also, hey, you want to know what force the Declaration of Independence has in American law?
I imagine that it doesn't have, because it's not it's an important historical document, but I don't think it actually has any laws that come from it.
Correct. It has absolutely zero force in American law. Declaration of Independence is, like you said, an important historical document in the United States of America, but it has literally zero force of law. None. Not even a little bit.
Not even a tiny bit.
Rights that you cannot put a lien against.
That's not what that means. You, in fact, can put a lien against inalienable rights. They just can't be entirely alienated from you. They can't be entirely removed from you. So, for instance, your right to life can't just be removed from you. Your right to property, which is really what the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence were talking about when they said the pursuit of happiness, they just thought it sounded crass. Because they were talking about, basically Scottish Enlightenment ideals. When they were talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, traditional formulation from, the Scottish Enlightenment was life, liberty, and property. So when they say that you have a property right, or say some land, means that fundamentally it's your land. However, certain overriding interests of the state could put a lien against it that allows, say, troops to march through a certain parcel of your land. That doesn't mean it's not yours, but you do have limited property rights in that sense for the time that the government needs it. So yeah, no, inalienable and can't have a lien against it aren't the same. I was going to go with the right to life, but it's hard to imagine a lien against the right to life that doesn't then just remove the right to life from you, which is one of the reasons why traditionally there aren't liens against the right to life. So,
That's a relief.
Right.
Well, where do rights come from? The right to...
Ultimately, they're coming from the people who are allowing you to exercise them, which is usually
to get married, for instance. When my son Eric got married, he did not get a marriage license. He had a marriage covenant. He and his wife agreed and promised, according to the Scripture, to be married for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, all that stuff. And all you needed, until about 100 years ago, there was no such thing as a marriage license. You just both signed the page in the family Bible, had 2 witnesses sign it, and poof, you're married.
I mean, I don't know enough about the history of, marriage law.
Wait, what?
I do know, though, for much longer than a century, marriages were recorded publicly in, town halls and whatnot. That's... if you've done a lot of work in genealogy, you'll know that marriages were a matter of public record for much longer than a century. I don't know about the formal issuance of marriage licenses, though. But, okay. And look, here's the thing, right? If you don't feel like your particular relationship with your significant other needs a government stamp of approval, then don't get one. I don't care. But don't pretend that you have the legal rights of a marriage that are afforded by the government if you don't get one and you haven't been living together long enough for it to count as a common law marriage. Because it won't work. Good luck filing jointly and then not being audited if you have any significant amount of tax that you actually owe. So,
marriage licenses came in only after the Civil War, when former slaves wanted to marry outside of their race. Some states said, well, you got to get our permission to do that.
I'm going to need a citation on that for the reason that I've never heard the claim and I've never seen it anywhere in historical documentation. However, I will say that there's a lot of aspects about current American law that did in fact come from attempts to keep former slaves from actually acting like they were free now.
Yeah.
Or just black people in general from acting like, they were equal to other people, like whites. So, like, yeah, I'm not saying it's an unbelievable thing that a state would do that. Because, yeah, there's a lot of aspects of American law that directly derive from attempts to keep the African-American population of the United States subjugated. However, that doesn't mean that this in particular is one of those things, and I still need the citation before I believe it.
Which you don't, by the way, but that's what they said. And so it gradually grew to everybody gets a marriage license. And they don't realize a marriage license is a three-way contract between you and your wife and the state.
Or you and your husband and the state, Kent.
Yeah.
Some people have husbands.
He doesn't know that.
But, I mean, yeah, technically it's not technically a contract, but I mean, yeah, the state is involved, so it's basically a party. I guess I'll take a drink on Thursday and kinda right? But yeah, look, if you don't want to have the government protecting the various rights and privileges that a marriage would afford you, you'll want to, like, say that you're married to whoever your partner is, I mean, do it, I don't care. Just understand the legal consequences of both of those routes. So, for instance, if you don't actually have a formal marriage that the state recognizes, you might not be allowed to see your spouse in the hospital outside of, like, normal visiting hours where, like, non-family can visit. You might not be able to act as their medical proxy unless they have an actual power of attorney that allows you to do so. So, like, there are risks that come with not actually having your marriage recognized by the state.
And that contract basically says, if we don't like the way you're raising your kids, the state gets to take them away.
No, it doesn't. I'm taking a drink.
That's not how that works.
Child protection laws are enforced regardless of your marital status and regardless of whether or not you're living with the children's other parent or whatever. Those laws are therefore for whomever is currently the caretaker of those children, whether or not they're married or anything else. And they absolutely, sorry, nothing to do with a marriage license. If you are unmarried or you have a common law marriage or you are just saying that you're married because you had a marriage ceremony in a church, all of which I'm saying are perfectly valid, things. I don't have a problem with you doing any of those things. But do know, the state will not take any of that into account when it comes to whether or not your children need to be removed from the home for their own safety because you violated child safety laws. It will not come up at all. They don't care.
Well, why would you sign a contract like that? But if you don't have a marriage
you probably wouldn't, but you're still not doing it when you sign that contract.
Marriage license, then they give you a hard time with bank accounts, and it just it's a giant problem.
Yeah, I don't know about bank accounts, but there are things like taxes where it's harder to do, like joint taxes and
I think you save quite a bit if you file jointly. It depends on the situation, obviously.
Right. Talk to your
tax law is complicated, but
talk to your accountant. And Vishanti says, is he going to go back to young Earth creationist or ramble about his right-wing politics? I'm pretty sure he's going to keep rambling about politics from here on out.
I'll tell you what he's not going to talk about is insects.
Oh, and the thing is, like, I said this the other day on Chesh's channel, right? Like, there's a place for, like, what should the marginal tax rate be, or, like, what regulations are too much to put on businesses, whatever. But this is just crazy conspiracy nonsense. Like, the government will come take your children if you sign a marriage license. Like, that's not even a right-wing thing. That's like,
and if you don't sign the license,
right, they won't take them? Yeah. Like, you've gone so far right that you, like, fell off a cliff, and now you're just in crazy conspiracy land. Like, that's... Then again, I now realize that a large part of the GOP has just done that, and so that is just now American right-wing. So, never mind. This is just now the mainstream right-wing American politics, which is...
Kent was ahead of his time.
I remember a time when that wasn't the mainstream of right-wing politics.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's depressing. Here we go.
Problem. And defending our rights has always been a long, difficult thing to do. And I think it's worth doing, and I do. But you need to defend the Founding Fathers' freedoms that they bought for us. So if creation is true, then there's a creator.
Oh, hey, we are back to creationism. But also, yes, if creation is true, there would have to be a creator because that's what the word means. So I guess I'll take a drink, even though it's kind of tautological.
That's the best he can do is his tautologies.
Did you know that the first rule of Tautology Club is the first rule?
I'm not surprised.
And he decides what's right and wrong, and he gives us certain rights that you can't take away.
Except you can. You just have to have big enough guns.
And you don't need the government's permission to do things that God told you can do.
I mean, you do if you want to get away with it.
Now, if you ask him...
Yeah, right.
What is he talking about?
Oh, like maybe paying taxes? Because remember, this is a time when Kent hadn't been paying taxes to the IRS for like 20 years. And he found out how well that worked.
Yeah.
For permission, they'll be glad to sell it to you, of course. But you don't need to ask their permission to do certain things. Thomas Jefferson was a deist. Now, he was not a Christian. I doubt that he's in heaven. I mean, I hope he is, but I doubt it. He did not believe in miracles. Here's Jefferson's Bible. I have it here on the screen. The last verse.
With Jefferson's Bible, he like took a little knife and he cut out various miracles and whatnot. I don't care.
End of the Bible. Christian.
Okay.
He was influenced by Christianity, and he certainly believed there had to be a creator, and he believed the creator gave us rights.
Yeah, it's kind of how deism works.
And that's why they wrote the Declaration of Independence and threw all the tea in the harbor and, you know, founded this great country we have. And it's amazing how many folks today talk about how great the founding fathers were. You know, we put their faces on our coins and on our money, and we write about them in our Christian textbooks, and we should.
Okay.
But yet, if it happened again today, it'd be about the same as it was back then. Only 3% of the population followed or supported the revolution. The rest were Tories.
Oh my goodness, is Kent going to come out as a 3%er?
I think he is already. I don't know what that means, though.
Who were opposed to it or didn't care. The majority of folks didn't care which side won. They thought it was just going to be, you know, nothing would change. And
I mean, to a large extent, they were right. If anything, their tax burden went up afterwards, after the American Revolution. If you were just some like homesteader or something, or like you were just some guy who like, you know, ran like a maize farm and you made some whiskey on the side to preserve what money you could enter, like, yeah, you didn't have your lot in life significantly changed, and certainly not improved by the American Revolution.
I think today we have an awful lot of people who have given in to unnecessary demands of our government. I think you should obey the law. I do. I obey the law.
Do you,
Yeah,
Kent?
okay, sure you do.
Let's take a drink for that
Lied
one.
Kent unconvincingly.
Kent, I feel like that 9 years that you spent in federal prison because you were convicted on all charges.
All 47?
Something like
charges
that,
or
yeah.
whatever it was?
I think that indicates that maybe you don't follow the law. Just saying. Also, he currently has been convicted of spouse abuse. Or domestic abuse, technically. So, yeah. Kent, you're currently a 2-time convicted felon. So, just saying.
But I would be throwing the tea in the harbor tonight if the party was going on. Okay, we got to hurry.
Good for you.
If creation is true, then laws come from the creator.
Nope, they still come from Congress if you're in the United States, or your local state legislature if you're talking about state laws, or your local town council if you're talking about like municipal regulations and whatnot.
What if,
And
I know he isn't, but what if he's talking about laws of nature?
Then in that case, I mean, you could say they come from the creator if you're theist. If you're not,
But I know that's not what he's talking about.
no, it's not.
Because if you look at the evolution side,
I do like how he's just coming out straight up as like, I'm anti-democracy. He's got democracy on the evolution.
Rights are unalienable, and the government should be limited. There's only 2 functions of government that they're supposed to be doing: punish evildoers and defend our shores, defend our country.
I mean, great, that's apolitical philosophy, Ken. It's not the only one. You have to actually argue for that. You can't just say that that's
Right.
the political philosophy.
it's the philosophical
The thing is,
ideology to have.
it's not even the way that governments functioned when they were explicitly Christian and had Christianity of various kinds as state religions. They still didn't just function with those. They did other things too.
The government should not be involved in education. They should not be involved in welfare. They should not be involved in about 80% of the things they're involved in. They just have no business being involved in it. And so if we get back to the constitutional limits of our government, the budget would drop to real far down there.
One thing, what the constitutional limits are is not something that's just glaringly obvious from reading the text. It's actually something that's been negotiated between the various branches of government over the course of the last 200 plus years. And federal subsidies for things like education and various federal welfare programs simply aren't unconstitutional because they've been tested against the law and found not to be. So, I mean, I don't know, Kent. I mean, the current Supreme Court is ready to just do all sorts of crazy stuff. So maybe in the future they'll be declared unconstitutional. As it is right now, that's just not the case. And also, Dr. Tapioca Weasel has gifted 1 Dapper Dinosaur membership, so we take a drink.
I bet Kent thinks he could balance the budget.
He probably does, actually. He couldn't. And by the way, that went to Pseudodidact, was gifted that membership by Dr. Tapioca Weasel. So guys, get in your tetrapod emojis. All right, here we go.
Probably about 2 to 3% of what it is today. This is called a constitutional republic. Now, in a republic, the law is supreme. Everybody obeys the law because the law came from the Creator.
No. Holy crap, Kent. God didn't write the freaking Constitution of the United States. He didn't write the Bill of God, now I can't even talk. The Bill of Rights, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm taking a drink, for God wrote the laws.
Does he mean the creator of the Constitution? And I know he doesn't because he's capitalizing that C as if it's a deity.
Seriously. Like, look at, there are names on the Constitution, Kent. Which one of them just says, God? Is it none of them? Yeah, it's none of them.
I'll have to double check, but maybe it's in there somewhere and I just forgot about it.
I mean, I've read it before, and I'm pretty sure that the word God wasn't in the signature section, but I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering.
I mean, the president, her husband, everybody on down should obey the law.
Yeah, very progressive of you, Kent, to assume that the next president will be female.
That's a constitutional republic. Genesis 1:30, God said to every beast of the earth and every fowl of the air and everything that creeps on the earth wherein there is life, I've given green herb for meat. And it was so.
Hey?
Originally, every beast ate plants.
Why are we on to this now? But okay, sure.
It's the transition towards insects.
Oh, yeah.
He's finally going to discuss it in the last couple of minutes.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys, we're going on to everything was vegetarian before the fall, which, I mean, good luck getting hyper carnivores like, you know, your kitty cat to live off of just plants and raw wild plants. I hope he goes into the little tyke thing.
Some people say, look at those teeth, man, that's a meat eater.
I can't tell what we're looking at. Is that a dog face? What's happening right now? We got 1, 2, 3 incisors, 1 set of canines. I'm going to go with panda. That's a panda.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it has the carnivoran dental formula, right? Because the basic carnivoran dental formula is 3 incisors, 1 set of canines, and there's a little bit of a gap. And which means this is almost certainly a carnivoran. But the thing is, what carnivoran is Kent going to show us that's going to be the most obvious non-carnivore carnivoran that people will know? I'm going with panda.
No, that happens to be a close-up view of a panda bear.
Boom!
Taking
a drink. All right, so a couple things. Pandas actually have fairly flat molars and premolars for grinding up grass, which is in fact what their diet almost entirely consists of. Also, pandas will absolutely eat meat if they don't have to work for it. Like, you give a panda a piece of steak, it'll devour that thing. And second, like, yeah, don't look at the canines and incisor. Well, sometimes incisors, but canines are useless for determining diet because canines are also used for other things like threat displays or intraspecific or even interspecific combat that is not designed to get food. Why you can say, like, camels have big old canines, but look at their molars. Molars are nice, flat, grindy things. Plants. It's one of the things that really bugs me, right? Is creationists love to look at, like, canines and sometimes the incisors of mammals and say, like, look, it's hard to determine from these canines what that animal eats. It's like, okay, check the molars, man. Oh, well, the molars make it obvious? Oh, okay, thanks. But they never do.
He's a vegetarian.
Mostly.
This is a skull of a fruit bat.
No, it's still a panda.
He lives on fruit.
There it is. Oh, hey, look. We have some nice slicing teeth at the front for biting into the flesh of a fruit. But then, you notice how the molars get nice and flat at the back?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's almost like it's for grinding up plant matter.
Huh.
Weird. Weird.
Has very sharp
That's
teeth.
crazy.
Here's a
Yeah, it does have sharp teeth in the front.
vegetarian monkey. All it does is eat plants and vegetables. It's
Nope,
got
still
sharp
bad.
teeth. Oh, before the flood,
Oh, there we go. Actually, those incisors are quite flat. And oh, look, it's got a threat display for canines. Weird. What are the what are the molars like, Kent? Are you even going to show us? Nope.
No, of
because
course
you know
not.
what? They're flat, just like those incisors are.
came, everything was vegetarian. Man and animals were all vegetarian, so they weren't afraid of each other. Nobody's going to eat you.
Yeah, you say that, but you haven't actually shown any evidence of animals with dentition that's actually characteristic of a carnivorous diet, and then said that this is in fact herbivore. Thank you, dog, for being so loud. I appreciate
Can't use
You
a
know,
citation.
everybody's fine.
it. Yeah, you know what? That's a fair point for a second. You need a citation.
Citation needed. .gif.
The animals didn't have to fear man. After the flood was over, in Genesis chapter 9, God said to Noah and the boys, go have a bunch of kids. And boy, they did too. He said, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. The first change after the flood, animals became afraid of man. The second change after the flood, God said, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you.
I mean, that's the claim. You got any evidence there, Kent? Nope. I think he's
No.
drinking water.
I've heard
Yeah.
a gulp.
That's him drinking water.
Wow. He
So
must
God
be
is saying
thirsty.
it's okay to eat
Right.
meat now. You can eat anything that moves, and it's perfectly fine to eat meat, and I do. Okay, I'm not a vegetarian, though vegetarians are probably healthier. Pork chops and bacon taste awful good, so I eat them once in a while.
I will drink to that. That's
Yeah, that
true.
is true. They do. Although also he's like, God could say you can eat whatever you want, and then like almost immediately gives a whole bunch of rules saying don't eat whatever you want, only eat these things. But nah, whatever. And also, what would it mean for the animals to be clean on the ark if that weren't part of the dietary rule? Like if you can't eat meat at all, then what does it mean for certain animals to be clean? Because as far as I know, the clean animal distinction, now correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not Jewish, I'm not a rabbi, but I'm under the impression that the entire point of the clean-unclean distinction is basically which animals you can eat. Because it's not like unclean animals can't be like touched by like the Hebrews, right? They had horses and donkeys, those aren't clean animals, you can't eat those according to the dietary rules of the Torah. But like, we know they still kept them. Even in the Bible, it says they did. So, like, what does that distinction even mean? Because apparently Noah knew what was clean and what wasn't, so that he could bring them on in extra number on the ark.
The animals showed up on their own,
Oh,
like in the movies.
Erechamian for $5 says, are there any beasts of the earth that aren't afraid of people? That might poke a hole in his overly literal reading. Yes, the quokka is a beast of the earth. Found primarily on Tasmania and surrounding islands, and it in fact has no fear of humans, which in the modern day isn't too big of a problem, but historically it has been a pretty big problem for the Vishanti says, may I direct you to the Talmud and the Midrash on this? I mean, you may, but like, unless you're going to send me like specific like sections, I'm probably not just going to read the Talmud and the Midrash in order to figure out this question.
You wouldn't do
That's
that.
quite a lot of reading. Sorry.
Paul said in Romans chapter 8, he said, for I reckon, by the way, that proves he's a southerner.
That's a joke that didn't land. We're taking a drink.
Did not land, yeah.
He said, I reckon that the sufferings of this present time, is there suffering in the world today? Tons of it, right? There's an awful lot of suffering in the world today, and that's what gets the atheist all confused. Charlie Darwin said, I am bewildered. I had no intention to write atheistically, but there seems to be so much misery in the world. Why would God make a world with suffering? He couldn't understand, if God made the world, why do the lions eat the zebras and the other animals? Well, Charlie, it's not the way God made it. See, God made a perfect world, and man wrecked it. But Charlie Darwin's philosophy...
I mean, too bad there isn't conclusive evidence of predation from, you know, before any of these events are supposed to have happened.
In his book, he said, "Thus, from the war of nature, from famine, from death, the most exalted object we are capable of conceiving, namely the production of higher animals, directly follows." He thought the way to get ahead, for things to get better, is for there to be struggle, suffering, death, misfits. This is Adolf Hitler's philosophy, folks. To it.
Take a drink. Goodness, Kent. You just can't stop with the God wins law.
Hitler certainly believed that and practiced it. See, God made a perfect world. Animals were all friendly. The lions and the lamb would lay down together. And man destroyed that because of his sin. By one man, the Bible says, death came into the world. Sin came into the world, and death by sin. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians, by man came death.
Yeah, Kent, we know what's in there. It's not new. Skipping ahead to see if he actually gets to it.
And blame it on the manufacturer. Send this picture to Chrysler and say, hey, why did you build a smashed minivan? Well, they didn't build a smashed minivan.
He's still just talking about the fall.
No insects. It's not going to happen.
Got smashed later. And you can't look at today's wrecked world and say, see, God, you made a world of suffering and death. No, God made a perfect world. Man wrecked it when he sinned, and then the flood really wrecked it.
Okay, Kent, but those are assertions, right? Saying that isn't the evidence that you that those things are true.
So we're looking at a devastated world, folks. Today we live in a junkyard. This is not...
I don't live in a junkyard. I've been to junkyards. It's not where I live. I object to that.
Not what God... I mean, this is the same planet, but it's not like God originally made it. It's just been destroyed. But God's going to fix it back someday. He said, someday the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. See, God's going to fix the world back like it used to be. And we're going to go through a time of suffering here, coming up any day. There's going to be some hard times. And people argue about where the 7-year tribulation fits, and do the Christians get raptured out at the...
Oh, goodness. Are we going to get into Kent's, like, eschatological fantasy?
I think so.
This will be interesting, because actually he changed his mind on eschatology while he was in prison, according to him. We might be getting, like, the proto-Kent eschatology right now, which ironically evolved later.
Beginning, I happen to believe that, though I'm willing to listen to other opinions. I believe I'm pre-trib rapture. Having studied the subject for years, I still am convinced that's...
I mean, that's convenient for you. You get to skip over the whole tribulation.
True, though, like I said, I'm willing to listen. Some people think the Christians get raptured out in the middle. They're called mid-trib or post-trib. They get raptured, Christians get raptured out at the end, whoever's left, whoever survived the 7-year tribulation. And then we enter a 1,000-year reign of Christ. And I don't know, I wouldn't be real dogmatic on any of the positions.
Kent, you're one of the most dogmatic people I've ever encountered in my entire life.
Right?
Why not just be dogmatic about this one? My goodness. You're going to be very dogmatic about exactly what Genesis means. But this part, who knows? Okay, sure, why not?
But the Bible certainly teaches there will be 7 years of trouble and turmoil on this world, and there will be a 1,000-year reign of Christ.
Does it? Because that's actually not a traditional part of most Christian theology throughout most of history. Like, okay, there's a reason why groups like Eastern Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Oriental Orthodox Church, the Anglican Communion, and other groups like that don't include Revelation in their readings. They include literally every other book of the New Testament, annual cycle of readings, but at no point in any of those churches does the Revelation of St. John come up. Specifically because of people like Kent, who will go into craziness about weird eschatological fantasies about tribulations and raptures and 1,000 years and 7 years and all this nonsense. Because, all those churches have that book in their Bible, and it does affect their theology. But, like, they also recognize what kind of crazy nonsense people get into when that becomes a big part of their theology. So, I'm not usually one to give the Roman Catholic Church props, but you know what? It's probably for the best that you're not including Revelation in your annual readings.
And apparently God's going to fix things back like it used to be, because the lion shall eat straw like the ox. That's
Lions can't live off of straw. They just can't. The closest you can come is you can keep a lion alive off of things like cooked beans and grain for a while. But wild lions can't do that because wild lions are spectacularly bad at cooking.
Yeah, they are.
And also, you can't do it indefinitely. Like, there's multiple studies on vegan diets for cats, and they all fail. Cats are always malnourished if they're kept on a vegan diet long term.
I don't know. Give them alfalfa and maybe some apricot seeds.
Gotta give
They'll
them
be
enough.
good to go.
Yeah.
the way it's not that way now, but that's the way it's going to be. And a child shall die 100 years old, Isaiah 65 tells us.
Doesn't sound like a child, but whatever.
Well, apparently something's going to be different. Maybe like it was back under the canopy in the Garden of Eden, where when you're 100 years old, you're still considered a child.
Dr. Tapioca Weasel has gifted another gift subscription, or sorry, membership. I'm still on like Twitch mode for some reason, even though I barely watch Twitch. And it went to Ernex. So get some tetrapod emojis in the chat there, and we'll take another drink. That zoomed in instead of adding one to the drink counter. My bad.
That'd be neat to be a kid for 100 years. No responsibilities?
No. I don't want to be a kid for 100. Like, look, there are advantages to being a kid, but, like, I kind of like having no one telling me when to go to bed or what to eat or where I can go and where I can't go, like an adult of 4.
When I was a child, I wanted to be an adult. Now that I'm an adult, I'm glad that I'm an adult and not a child anymore.
Look, there are things I miss about my childhood. Like, I don't want to be a kid forever. Jack of Hearts for £2 says, we taught a lion to eat tofu. Yep, that's straight out of Futurama. And it's actually also straight out of, like, weird vegan propaganda that was then later co-opted by Young Earth creationists. It's like the weirdest chain of transmission. Because normally creationists aren't big fans of, like, vegan left-wing nut jobs. But in this case, they're like, oh, but this fits with our idea of vegan lions, so we're going to use it.
That'd be great. I suspect God's going to fix the world back like it used to be in the Garden of Eden, and we will get to live here and see it like it used to be for 1,000 years. Rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. That's going to be great. Well, join us again next week. We'll talk more about the subject of creation and evolution and show you how dinosaurs fit in. Thank you so much.
Well, guys, that's actually the end of this video, and we're close enough to the end of the entire show that I don't want to start the next one. So we will start up fresh with CSE 102 Class 3, which is apparently going to actually be about dinosaurs, just like this one was about insects. So I'm expecting there to be essentially nothing about dinosaurs. Bent, you got anything you want to plug?
Yes, I have an Amazon wish list down below. I have awesome music that I make, and there's a link down below in the description if you want to listen to that. And as far as my next appearance, I will be on Top Hats Off tomorrow, streaming Power Rangers Battle for the Grid with Dapper and friends.
No, Power Rangers RPG. We're not playing Battle.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Never mind about Battle for the Grid. What are we? Okay,
Power Rangers
we'll be
RPG.
on Top Hats Off tomorrow. Be there or be square. That's the important part.
Yes, Battle for the Grid is the co-op board game, not the tabletop role play.
That is confusing for me, but I'm also stupid, so.
All right, so on this channel, day after tomorrow, so you already heard about tomorrow on Top Hats Off. Day after, we're going to be having a premiere of something. Let me double check. It's a video. I made it. Oh yes, we're having Dr. Upper Carter and Evolution's Achilles Heel, the movie, which is going to be coming out tomorrow at 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you live in another time zone besides those, please do the math. On Saturday, we are having the Cambrian Bunny Award Show nomination special. So be ready for that. We will have voting will open after the show ends, and we will go for at least a calendar month before we have the actual award show. Now, that will not be at my normal time for Saturdays because that does not work for all my panelists. Instead, we will be doing it at 9 Eastern, which is 6 Pacific. So there you go. If you want to tune in for that, please do. that's about as far ahead as I'm going to look this week. We're going to be actually, you know what? I'll tell you. We'll be starting a new series next week. So I am going to double check what that is. Give me 1 second. And make sure I know what I'm talking about. So we already did the David Menton. Oh yes, we're going to be starting on Kurt Wise, that is. A series called Unwise Flood Fossils. It's going to be a 3-parter. Starting with the 3 megafaunas of Noah's flood, because Kurt Wise doesn't understand how words work. And then
Words are difficult, to be fair.
yes, then we'll go on to taxonomy is confusing and scary, in parentheses, for Kurt Wise. And then pine trees are extinct is episode 3, because for some reason Kurt Wise repeatedly puts on screen graphics that indicate that pine trees are extinct. I don't understand why he did that, because
Has he been outside before?
right? As far as I can tell, pine trees are doing just fine. But according to Kurt Wise, no, they're in fact extinct. If you think you've seen pine trees during your life, you're wrong,
Nope.
because they went extinct during the flood. Gosh darn it.
Oh my gosh. Maybe they're time-traveling pine trees.
It's the most bizarre thing. Carrie Bronson for $5 says, Bent looks like the spinning dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, which has more to do with dinos than Kent's stuff somehow.
Yeah, it does.
You do kind of look like the JP Dilophosaurus.
Well, thank you. I try my best.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. I hope I see you tomorrow on Top Hats Off.
Yeah.
And even if I don't, I hope I see you on Thursday.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching, but before you go, I just want to say a special thank you to my channel members and my patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above.
Bob Knob, Work in Progress, Bent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Denny5252, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, San, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Veed, Eleran Teller, and Pat L. Dennis.
As you probably know, YouTube is a very volatile platform, and from month to month my income on the channel can swing wildly. But the people you see on screen are directly supporting so that I don't have to worry too much about that, and the channel can keep going as it is, and perhaps even improving. If you'd like to join this team, there are links below to join the channel or in the description to join the Patreon. The Patreon starts as low as $1 a month, and the channel memberships start as low as $1.99 a month. On Patreon, you can even get a discount for pledging annually. If you do decide to pledge, you'll get access to an exclusive Discord server just for channel supporters, as well as early access to all of my pre-recorded videos, often up to 2 months in advance. Higher tiers will unlock even better perks. Now, if an annual or monthly pledge isn't right for you, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store down in the description, as well as an Amazon wishlist, just for me. And if financial support isn't something you can or want to do, then if you still want to help out the channel, please just like and share these videos and make sure you comment on them. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching.